As a freshman in college, I decided to save money by living with my parents, who resided in the same town as my university. It was a practical choice, and everything seemed to be going smoothly in this arrangement. I attended my classes, made new friends, and was generally excited about this new phase of life. However, little did I know that my college experience was about to take a terrifying turn. It all began in my calculus class, a challenging course that many students found daunting. The class was held in a large lecture hall, and like any other class, students would gradually form their own routines and seating arrangements. I usually sat in the same spot, near the middle of the hall, among a group of friends. One day, I noticed a student who stood out from the rest. He seemed significantly older than the typical college freshman, and his appearance was rather disheveled. What was even more disconcerting was his behavior. Unlike most students who arrived on time and settled into their seats, this guy consistently arrived late. It was as if he deliberately chose to slip into the lecture hall just moments before it began. What was even more unsettling was that he would choose an empty seat uncomfortably close to me. At first, I tried to rationalize his behavior, thinking that perhaps he had a unique schedule or other commitments that caused him to be late. I didn't want to make any assumptions or judgments about my fellow students. In fact, I've always been someone who is willing to help others. So when he started asking questions about the class material, I didn't think twice about offering assistance. Our interactions started innocently enough. He seemed genuinely interested in catching up with the coursework and often requested my help to clarify concepts or review lecture notes. Being academically inclined and eager to lend a hand, I willingly shared my knowledge with him, thinking that it was a way to assist a fellow student in need. However, as the days went by, his behavior began to take a disturbing turn. One evening, after a particularly challenging calculus lecture, he approached me with an unsettling request. He asked if we could exchange Snapchat usernames so that we could continue discussing class-related topics outside of class. Although I felt a twinge of hesitation, I didn't want to come across as unfriendly or uncooperative, so I reluctantly shared my username. It was a decision I would come to deeply regret. Later that evening, as I checked my Snapchat messages, I was met with a barrage of disturbing and aggressive messages from this classmate. The messages were laced with threats, taunts, and unsettling remarks that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if he had undergone a drastic transformation from the mildly eccentric classmate I had encountered in the lecture hall to a menacing and unhinged figure lurking in the shadows of my digital world. However, the nightmare had only just begun. I discovered that he had used Snap Maps, a feature on Snapchat that allows users to see the real-time location of their friends to pinpoint my exact address. Terrifyingly, he began sending messages that demanded I come outside. The chilling realization that this person knew where I lived left me paralyzed with fear. In that moment, I faced a difficult decision. I was genuinely frightened by the messages and the fact that he had tracked down my home address, but I also grappled with uncertainty about whether involving the police was warranted. Nevertheless, I knew I had to take immediate action to protect myself. With trembling hands, I blocked him on Snapchat and disabled my location settings, hoping to sever the digital connection that had become a conduit for this nightmare. This unsettling encounter left me profoundly shaken, and it served as a stark reminder of the potential dangers that could lurk behind seemingly innocent interactions, even with fellow students. It was a turning point that made me acutely aware of the importance of setting strong boundaries in the digital age and being cautious about sharing personal information online. I was a freshman in high school, and the days leading up to my crazy Snapchat horror story had been relatively calm. I began to believe that this one creepy classmate who had been acting very strange towards me had finally given up his disturbing obsession with me. The initial relief I felt was like a soothing balm for my frayed nerves, and I started to regain a semblance of normalcy in my life. Little did I know that this deceptive calm would soon be shattered by a horrifying revelation. On the day of the incident, the weather was pleasant, and I had decided to spend time with my friends in a shopping center parking lot. We gathered there, chatting and laughing as we often did, completely unaware that someone was lurking in the shadows of the virtual world, waiting for the right moment to strike. It was during this seemingly carefree gathering that my phone buzzed with a notification from Snapchat. I absent-mindedly tapped the icon, curious about the message that awaited me. What I saw when the app opened sent shivers down my spine. The image displayed was a photograph taken earlier that day, in the same parking lot where I was currently with my friends. It was an eerie and unsettling photograph of me walking with my friends, captured without our knowledge. The sight of this image was horrifying for several reasons. First, because it was a clear invasion of my privacy, as I had already blocked the creepy classmate on Snapchat. Second, because it meant that he had created an entirely fake account, disguising himself as a girl to deceive me. As I swiped through the story, my heart sank further. The Snapchat story featured a chilling collage of pictures, all of me, taken surreptitiously over the past couple of weeks. There were images of me driving, unaware that I was being watched. Candid shots from my outings with friends, like going to the movies, had been included, and my heart stopped when I saw intimate pictures of me dining at a restaurant with a girl I had feelings for. These moments were meant to be personal, cherished memories, but they had been perverted into something sinister. The feeling of being constantly surveilled, of having every moment of my life scrutinized and exposed, was paralyzing. It wasn't just about the pictures, it was the psychological torment of knowing that someone was lurking in the shadows, invading my world without my consent. Overwhelmed by fear, anger, and a sense of violation, I knew I couldn't let this continue. With trembling hands, I blocked the fake Snapchat account once again, but this time I was determined to put an end to this torment. I contacted the authorities, reported the stalking, and decided to press charges. The legal process was complex and time-consuming, but I was unwavering in my pursuit of justice. Law enforcement launched a thorough investigation to unmask the identity of the relentless cyberstalker. It was a grueling and emotionally draining process, but it was the only way to ensure that this person would face the consequences of their actions. In the wake of this harrowing experience, I became hyper-vigilant about my online presence. I revamped my security settings on all social media platforms, making them as airtight as possible. I also became acutely aware of who I connected with online, emphasizing quality over quantity in my digital relationships. It was my first semester at Montana State University in Billings, and like any college freshman, I was eager to embrace the new experiences and challenges that awaited me. While my high school friends had mostly scattered to different colleges, I was determined to make new friends and thrive academically in my hometown. One of the courses I had registered for was Calculus 101, a subject I knew could be demanding. I had heard mixed reviews about the professor and the course itself, but I was determined to excel. Little did I know that my biggest challenge that semester would come from a source I never anticipated, a fellow classmate. From the first day of classes, there was something off about a guy who sat in the back row of the lecture hall. His name was Ethan, and he immediately caught my attention for all the wrong reasons. His appearance was unsettling, to say the least. His hair was greasy and disheveled, hanging in front of his face like a curtain. He wore clothes that looked like they hadn't seen a washing machine in weeks, and his shoes were scuffed and falling apart. The most unsettling aspect, however, was the dirt that seemed permanently ingrained into his skin, giving him an eerie, grimy appearance. Despite his unusual demeanor and appearance, he appeared polite, albeit incredibly shy. He hardly ever spoke in class and kept to himself, which only added to the mystique surrounding him. As the weeks went by, I couldn't help but notice that he always chose a seat close to mine, even though the lecture hall had plenty of empty seats. It was as if he was deliberately trying to be near me, and this realization sent shivers down my spine. One fateful day, our calculus professor assigned a particularly challenging set of homework problems. I was immersed in my work when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Startled, I turned around to see Ethan, standing there with an uncertain look on his face. He asked me if I could help him understand some of the material better. Hesitant, but wanting to be helpful, I agreed to help him with the homework after class. After class, I gave him my Snapchat username, thinking it would be an easy way to share study materials and solutions to the homework. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent act would open the door to a deeply unsettling and disturbing encounter. That evening, as I was settling down to review my notes, I noticed several Snapchat messages from Ethan. Expecting questions about calculus, I opened them with a sense of duty. However, what I saw on my screen left me utterly unnerved. The messages were accompanied by photos. One of them was a shirtless photo of Ethan, taken in what appeared to be a grimy bathroom, and the caption read, "Nice jeans, by the way." I felt my heart race as I read his messages, which became increasingly inappropriate and harassing. He made derogatory remarks about my appearance, invaded my personal space online, and sent messages that hinted at a disturbing physical confrontation. I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. Despite the growing fear and discomfort, I initially hesitated to block him on Snapchat, fearing it might create an even more awkward situation in class. Instead, I sent a stern reply, asking him to keep our conversations strictly focused on class-related topics. But Ethan's behavior only grew more aggressive and threatening with time. He started sending me explicit and menacing messages, both in text and images. He seemed to know personal details about me that I had never shared with him, which heightened my anxiety. One evening, he used Snapchat's Snap Maps to track my location and sent a message that chilled me to the bone. "I know where you are. Don't think you can hide." At that moment, I realized I could no longer dismiss his actions as mere online harassment. I felt genuinely threatened and knew that I had to take immediate action to protect myself. Reporting the situation to the police was a difficult decision, but I knew it was the only way to put an end to this distressing and frightening encounter that had invaded my life. Hey guys, Dark Tales Library here. I just wanted to say a big thank you for making it to the end of the video. It means a lot. And if you liked it, please consider subscribing. It helps out more than you know and also tells me what you guys like and want to see more of. Thanks again.